All Indiana Politics is your premier source for Indiana politics, focusing on issues that matter to you.
I still want us to be the best in the Midwest.
We can't afford another lockdown.
Give the citizens of this country the relief they need.
Education in the state of Indiana remains priority number one.
In-depth, nonpartisan coverage.
We don't know exactly where the economy will be in January.
People are worried with good reason.
Exclusive interviews with Indiana's political leaders.
We have the resources here in the state of Indiana to care for those who are in need.
Expert analysis on critical legislation.
We need to reform those laws.
This recovery is going to take some time.
We've got to anticipate that there'll be a budget shortfall.
From Wish TV, this is All Indiana Politics Podcast on the All Indiana Podcast Network.
Good morning. Happy 2023 to all of you. We're looking forward to another busy year here on All Indiana Politics. And we begin this year with Governor Eric Holcomb as he ponders his next political move. He'll also try to guide the legislature during its budget session that begins next week. So what does he want to accomplish? Our Garrett Berquist sat down with the governor to ask.
With us now is Governor Eric Holcomb. Governor, thanks for letting us drop by today.
Well, good to be with you, and good morning.
This is going to be your final budget session as governor. What projects are left undone that you want to make sure you get into this 2023 or 2024 budget?
We are committed to making sure that every day, every week, every month, every year, and so these next two will be no different, that we continue to improve in all the areas that we need to, whether we're ranked number one in terms of infrastructure in America, or if we're ranked 48th, how do we improve? Or how do we maintain the pole position? And so when it comes to educational development, we'll want to make sure that we're providing even more direct pathways for high school students to either enlist or become employed directly or pursue higher education. We'll want to make sure that we have more proven programs in place to skill up adults in terms of workforce development. We'll want to make sure that we don't just say it, it's not rhetorical, but we'll want to make sure that we fully fund programs that are going to improve our health and wellness. Health is wealth, and when you have a workforce that's crying for more skilled up, ready to work employees, we can't afford to overlook any population, geographically, demographically, or in terms of education attainment. We have to make sure we're consistently skilling up. And so those two areas, educational development and health, personal health and wellness, will be two key areas. And in addition to that, we can't take a break. We can't take our foot off the gas in terms of making sure the Indiana Economic Development Corporation has the tools it needs to continue to go out and get the businesses and the sectors to invest in Indiana that are going to be around for the next 50, 60, 100 years.
House Speaker Todd Houston has called for sweeping changes to the high school curriculum. Do you agree with his proposals that we've seen so far? What would you like to see?
Yeah, we're in constant communication. And I, like the Speaker and the President Pro Tem and various members on both sides of the aisle, are not content with where we are. And we know that we are blessed with so many advantages here in the state of Indiana. We just need to scale up a lot of these proven programs that are making transformational differences in people's individual lives and in their families' lives. And so I want to make sure that, along with the Speaker, that we're not doing this in a hodgepodge way, but that it's structural, that it's cultural, and that folks, it's obvious, they're aware of these pathways and they're taking part in it. So how we scale up on multiple fronts, be it in high school or K through 8, or early childhood education, we need to continue to, in my opinion, double down or triple down in terms of investments to improve our literacy rates. And so we'll not just wait until high school. Sometimes that's way too late to address the real issue if you get off on the wrong foot. And so this isn't, again, an either or, and that's why the budget or the revenue forecast that's being released probably right now as we sit here and talk, that will be very instructive to how much funding we can allocate into all these different areas of priority.
You were the only state governor at COP27 this year. What role do you see the state government playing in combating the climate crisis, particularly as we're going into this budget session?
Yeah, for a state like Indiana, that's the #1 ranked advanced manufacturing state in America for that matter, per capita. This is critically important to us, our energy portfolio, and knowing that the market usually has the final say, and the market is who's spinning out innovations that are going to change the world. We just saw the federal government announce a real kind of breakthrough, an initial breakthrough in terms of nuclear fusion as opposed to fission. But we're right now here today working with Purdue and Duke, one of our big utilities here in the state of Indiana, on small modular reactors. We're working on stretches of the highway that would charge trucks and batteries in the EV market. We're doing some incredibly innovative things in terms of cement and concrete manufacturing. We're looking at hydrogen as an alternative source. We have the largest solar farm, 1.3 gigawatts in America. We're ranked number 4th in terms of renewable energy sources under construction for that capacity. And so it's an incredibly exciting time as we move into the future, and the sources that businesses and residents will come to not just expect but demand in terms of reliability and affordability and sustainability. And a state like Indiana has a very pragmatic approach to realizing those innovations and turning them into action. And I'm proud to not just be a part of it, but to carry the Indiana flag anywhere where folks want to talk about really practical, pragmatic advances that are being made in terms of transportation, in terms of agriculture, in terms of construction, and distribution, the actual grid itself. This was a place, this COP27, I had the place to myself and was able to brag about what Indiana industry is already doing. We just need to do a whole lot more of it.
All right, coming up, we look back on some of the biggest political stories of this past year with some of Indiana's best political minds. All right, welcome back to All Indiana Politics. As we welcome back Democrat Kip Tu and Republican Tom John. Happy New Year to you both. Let's start today by looking back on 2022, shall we? Kip, this turned out to be a better year for Democrats than many expected, huh?
It did. I think there were some factors that played into that, of course. I do believe that Donald Trump is a drag on the Republican Party, and that played into it. And I also believe the Supreme Court, with their decision in the Dobbs case, also helped with Democrats and helped turn out nationally. And that's why in large part, why we succeeded in some regards. We had better candidates than Republicans did, and that goes back to Trump, who recruited and forced his candidates in many Senate races where McConnell actually didn't want that to have happen. And so you saw what you saw. It's still a very closely divided country, but Democrats are going to have at least the upper hand in the U.S. Senate.
That being said, Tom, it was a pretty big year for Republicans in the state of Indiana, too, right?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly nationally things didn't go for Republicans the way you would have liked, but to Kip's point of candidates mattering to a great extent, you saw in Indiana a lot of the races that the Democrats had hoped to take out didn't ultimately happen, didn't ultimately have candidates with enough backing, or the Republican candidates were strong enough that regardless of the funding and efforts that were made, they came through. And, once again, Senator Young, went away in a boat race. And so all in all, for Indiana Republicans, the state of the party remains strong.
Do you foresee either one of you the Trump effect having an impact moving forward either way, Kip?
Well, I'd like to see him indicted, so I don't know whether it'll be an effect or not an effect. I think that the January 6th committee had significant evidence that the former president of the United States committed crimes. I'd like to see the Justice Department prosecute him. We won't know what the effect of that will be. It's probably not a positive on either side, because unfortunately, when you have someone as corrupt as him, it tends to make things even worse.
Tom, is he still going to play a role in deciding who the candidates are going to be for the Republican Party?
I think he's still going to be around and try to have a role in deciding candidates. But I think you look right now at Governor DeSantis and the big day he had in November down in Florida and the fundraising he's done and seeing how he's moving the polls, that you may see a post-Trump Republican Party sooner than later.
Okay, well, we'll see what happens there. I want to ask you both the same question here, and we'll start with you, Tom. What was the biggest moment for Republicans in 2022?
Well, I think it would say at least getting the House so that you have a equal voice in the in D.C. right now, so that you can have a conversation and not have things passed without Republican input. Nationally and in the state, I would say it's a lot of the efforts that have been done by the Holcomb administration. You saw a tripling of the record of economic investment for the state, $22 billion, as opposed to the last record was $8.7 billion. And that makes all of us in Indiana winners.
Kip, biggest highlight for Democrats?
The biggest highlight, I think, is the surprising success of President Biden. People counted him out at the beginning of the year. It didn't look like he was going to get much of his agenda passed. But as we look at the end of the year here and going into the next year, he's been probably the most consequential, successful president at the legislative level we've seen since Lyndon Johnson.
I can't talk about the good without talking about the bad as well. So I want to get your answer from both of you on this one as well. Biggest disappointment, and Kip, we'll go to you.
I think the biggest disappointment for Democrats in the state of Indiana was the fact that we did not defeat Diego Morales. He should have been ripe for the picking. We had a good candidate. We didn't fund it well enough, and that's a pretty big disappointment for us.
Tom?
I mean, certainly at the national level, it has to be not getting the Senate. There were significant beliefs that Republicans would get the Senate. In fact, we atrophied from that. In Indiana, I mean, frankly, it's been a good year politically, and the state's continued to do well financially and continue to move things forward. So we really haven't had the disappointments that other places have.
Is there anything we can learn from 2022 that would help either one of your parties moving forward, Tom?
I think the number one thing to learn is candidates matter. Going back to the U.S. Senate, I think you can pretty clearly see that candidate quality did make a difference in the races that Republicans lost that they could have won. I think that also applies in Indiana, and it will continue to apply that if you don't put up good candidates, if you don't speak to people, eventually they will throw you out, and they don't care whether you're designated a red state or a blue state or whatever.
Kip, I have about a minute left in this segment. Your response.
I think for Democrats in Indiana, we need to have a very candid conversation about where we are and how we build ourselves back up from there. The fact that we did not beat Diego Morales is a wake-up call to all of us. We have to fund candidates. We have to get behind them with financial resources to help make them successful. If we don't do that, we're not going to be successful.
Okay, our conversation about what's to come in 2023, coming up after the break. Stick with us here on All Indiana Politics. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to All Indiana Politics. Kip 2, Tom John still with us. Gentlemen, let's continue the conversation about 2023, shall we? Lawmakers come back to work, as you very well know, in the next few days. We know it's a budget session, so outside of the actual money, gentlemen, what becomes the number one issue this session? Tom?
Well, I think you'll see health care be a major issue. You've had the report from the Health Care Commission and comments from former Senator Kenley about the investments that need to be made. And the governor is going to push that through, but you've had some reticence on the legislative side there. So that debate, I think, will be one of them that carries throughout the session.
Kip?
Well, I think the Speaker of the House has indicated that he wants to take a hard look at how we do high school, and he hasn't been specific about that. But there'll be a fascinating conversation about that. We've also heard that there's going to potentially be significant tax reform. A very influential state senator said he wants to attempt to get rid of the income tax in the state of Indiana and replace it somehow. That's going to be a heck of an interesting conversation for those of us who are close to it. And perhaps I'd like to see us maybe tackle cannabis. I think iGaming may be on the issue for us, as maybe one of the issues for us as well. I think the time has come for cannabis. I hope to heck we have a conversation.
Your thoughts, though, Kip, on that income tax topic?
Some states have been successful selling that and making people move, but most of them have other things going for them, like tourism that we don't have. So it's going to be an interesting conversation to see how they fill up the funds.
Tom, could that be a possibility? Could that become a talker, a real conversation being had in this year?
Well, real conversation doesn't equate to legislation, I think, and this is the sort of big idea that typically you don't see get done in a single session. But typically these sorts of big ideas need socialization and work through and discussion and maybe incremental moves towards them. So it'll be interesting to see the discussion, what comes out of it, and whether we head down that road.
Yeah. All right. Well, Kip, there's already talk, though, of what's been called the Don't Say Gay bill. Are we headed for a contentious session on social issues again?
Well, I haven't been in one that hasn't been in the last 6, 7, 8 years. So I expect that we will see some of that. It's unfortunate. I think Republicans have gotten all the water out of that rag, and they maybe should move on to something else.
Tom, your response.
Well, I don't think we're going to see as much in the social area. You've seen indications from several people, both leadership in the General Assembly and the governor, that we have other initiatives that we really need to focus on, whether that's workforce, whether it's healthcare, economic development issues, refunding the READY grants. And I think that will be the focus, is how do we make life better for Hoosiers? How do we create more opportunities for Hoosiers? And yeah, every year somebody files a bill, but is it really going to be a center of the discussion? I would say it's probably not going to be, because there's a lot bigger issues over there.
As you guys very well know, we'll keep it a little more local here. 2023 will also be a big mayoral race year. So will there be any surprises, Kip?
There's going to be a couple people that retire, and so there'll be some open seats in the suburbs, I think. Brainerd's leaving for sure. That's going to be an interesting race. I do believe that Democrats are going to be competitive. President Biden carried the city of Carmel in 2020, and in 2022, Destiny Wells carried the city of Carmel. So I think that that's a place where we might see a surprise that a Democrat could get elected.
Tom.
Well, I'll take that bet, Kip.
Right.
I think you'll continue to have great Republican leadership in Carmel and replacing Mayor Brainerd. I think he has a great legacy that he's leaving there. And I think you can even see around the candidates that have come out to a great extent that they have lauded the work he's done and say they want to move it forward, not necessarily undo things, and don't have a problem with it. I think you may see some other places come open, and obviously in Indianapolis, we've got Mayor Hogsett running for a third term. That's historically not gone great for mayors when they do that. And one of the interesting new candidates there is personality Abdul Hakim Shabazz, who I think is looking hard at the race and may provide an interesting candidate in that race.
Yeah, and we'll see if he officially runs, and I would imagine some others also might be throwing their hat in the ring as well. I want to get back to the Hamilton County discussion, because Tom, is that concerning for Republicans that the county itself is turning more purple, specifically in Carmel? As Kip pointed out, it's gone blue.
Well, I'm going to sound like a broken record. Candidates matter. And so when you're talking about the presidential race, we've discussed a lot Trump versus Biden and how Trump has done or not done well in the suburbs and highly educated areas. This is still a community, though, that largely, I think, views itself as fiscally conservative, and they want to invest in their community in thoughtful ways. And they've seen that from their local Republican leaders. And I think it's pretty unlikely that they'll abandon them at this point.
Kip, I see you smiling, and you cover politics for a long time here, been in politics for a long time. You know that traditionally Hamilton County was a red county, and it hasn't been going that way lately.
Well, I smiled at him saying fiscally responsible and conservative, because Mayor Brainerd obviously was a visionary for the city of Carmel, no question about it. It's an absolutely beautiful city. He's done a great job, but he did it with lots and lots and lots of money. Yeah. And so to call him fiscally conservative is, I don't think, fair.
Yeah, but still low tax rates.
Because of growth.
I think you guys could probably go back and forth on this one for quite some time. Also, Mayor Brainerd also, he's never met a roundabout he doesn't love, huh?
Exactly right.
He's had a good career. Hat tip to him, right? Moving forward, we'll see what happens in 2023. Gentlemen, always good to see you. Have a happy New Year. We'll talk soon.
Likewise.
Great. Happy New Year.
Take All Indiana Politics on the go with you. Download our podcast now. Part of the All Indiana Podcast Network and allindianapodcastnetwork.com.
All right, thank you for joining us for All Indiana Politics this week. We'll be back here next Sunday morning at 9:30. You can also find our brand new All Indiana Politics podcast. It's part of the All Indiana Podcast Network at wishtv.com. Have a great rest of your weekend and a happy New Year.
From Wish TV, this is All Indiana Politics Podcast on the All Indiana Podcast Network. Watch All Indiana Politics live Sunday mornings at 9:30 on Wish TV and at wishtv.com. Subscribe to this podcast and listen weekly here on the All Indiana Podcast Network. And be sure to discover even more great podcasts at allindianapodcastnetwork.com.